One move left them silent. I'll skip the pleasantries. Let me tell you exactly when the scales tipped in my head, standing in the living room of the house I built with my own hands. While Sarah's entire family tried to corner me into tearing up a prenup they made me sign in the first place. That moment didn't just open my eyes, it snapped them wide open. I'd worked too hard to be spoken to like a subordinate in my own home. Sarah's dad, Tom, was playing the concerned father act, talking like this was some harmless family matter. Her mom, Diane, leaned in with that fake sweet smile, calling me stubborn for not caving in. And Sarah just sat there, quiet. That was the worst part. No backing me up, no calling out the bullshit, just silence. I'll admit, I'd let too much slide before that night. I kept my mouth shut for years, telling myself it was easier to swallow the jabs than to start a fight. But seeing them all together, thinking they could break me down because they saw dollar signs? That snapped something in me. So I laid it out straight. The prenup stays. This isn't a group decision, and I'm not your retirement plan. Tom's face went red, but he didn't say much after that. Diane tried to guilt me, but I shut it down quick. I told them the truth. I wasn't here to bankroll anyone's lifestyle. I didn't raise my voice or make a scene. I just told them flat out, I'm done playing along. Sarah didn't like that. She called me cold, said I was making it all about money. But money wasn't the point, it was respect. And if she couldn't see the difference, that was her problem. The next day, Amy, Sarah's younger sister, called me. Out of the blue. We never talked much outside family dinners. She looked nervous when we met up, but she said she had to tell me the truth. She'd overheard Sarah and her parents talking. Apparently, Sarah had been seeing someone else. Her parents knew, and they were trying to scrap the prenup before she walked away, so she could take her fair share, as they called it. That hit me like a gut punch, but I didn't let it knock me down. I've always been good at reading situations. Their sudden push to erase the prenup, the way Sarah stopped meeting my eyes whenever I brought it up, it all clicked. I didn't rage. I didn't throw anything or scream. I did what needed to be done. I called my lawyer and laid it all out. I told him about the shady charges I'd seen on our credit card, the odd hotel stays. He told me to gather proof and keep calm. So I did. Quietly, methodically. Like I always handle things. When I confronted Sarah, she didn't deny it. She tried to flip it on me, said I'd been distant, that I was married to my work, that she felt alone. I didn't argue. I'd heard enough excuses. I told her straight. You're not a victim here, Sarah. You made your choices, and I'm done carrying the weight for you. She cried. She begged. I didn't budge. My lawyer filed the divorce papers the next day. Here's where the prenup came in like a godsend. Her family thought they were so smart, forcing me to sign it back then. They didn't realize that same piece of paper would save me now. Sarah walked away with nothing but her clothes. No spousal support, no cut of the house or the business I'd built. Just the consequences of her choices. Diane tried calling, leaving me these long voicemails about how I'd ruined Sarah's life. I didn't bother responding. My lawyer said to let them say their piece. There was nothing they could do. I kept it all documented, just in case. Turns out, Tom and Diane's finances weren't as rock solid as they wanted everyone to believe. They'd been bleeding money for years, and they saw me as their golden parachute. Well, I wasn't about to be anyone's bailout plan. Sarah moved back in with them, and from what I hear, things aren't going so well. She's stuck in her childhood bedroom, while I'm moving on. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a part of me that feels vindicated. Not out of spite, just because it proves what I already knew. People show you who they are when the money's gone. Amy and I still talk sometimes. She apologized for not speaking up sooner, but honestly, she didn't have to. She did the right thing, and that's more than I can say for the rest of them. These days, life is a hell of a lot quieter. I'm still running my company, still doing what I've always done, building things that last. I've learned to trust my gut more, and I've learned that no amount of love or history can justify staying where you're not respected. So to any guy out there dealing with a family like that, or a partner who's quick to twist loyalty into leverage, don't let them. Protect what's yours. Stand up for your work, your time, and your peace of mind. They'll call you cold, or stubborn, or controlling. Let them. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with the consequences, not them. And I'll tell you one last thing, that prenup? Best damn decision I ever made. No regrets, no second guessing. Just the clean break I needed to get my life back. Part 2, no going back. The thing about having the rug pulled out from under you is that it forces you to stand on your own feet. There's no more leaning on someone else's promises or trying to keep up appearances. You either find your balance or you fall flat. And I wasn't about to fall. The first month after the divorce was like coming up for air after being underwater for too long. The house felt too quiet some nights. No small talk at dinner, no arguments about who left the dishes in the sink. But I realized that quiet is a hell of a lot better than walking on eggshells. I started sleeping better. Eating better. Hell, I even started hitting the gym again, just because it felt good to move without carrying around the weight of someone else's expectations. I kept my head down at work, too. My business was my anchor. Every time the memories started creeping in, Sarah's voice in my ear, her parents' smug smiles, I poured it into the company. I hired 2 more guys for the property maintenance crew, expanded our client base, and locked down a few new contracts that put us in a solid position for the next few years. It felt good to focus on something that made sense, something I had control over. Amy checked in on me a couple of times. She always looked a little nervous, like she was worried she was overstepping. But she was one of the only people in that whole mess who didn't try to manipulate me, so I told her she was welcome to stop by whenever she wanted. One afternoon she showed up at my office with a 6-pack of local craft beer and a sheepish grin. "Thought you might need this," she said, setting it down on my desk. I gave her a tired smile. "You're not wrong. Pull up a chair." We sat there drinking, talking about everything except Sarah. It was refreshing, honestly, like I didn't have to keep rehashing the same arguments or justifying why I was done. Amy didn't push me to open up, but she didn't avoid it either. She just listened, nodding when I needed it, and cracking a few jokes to keep it from getting too heavy. "You know," she said after a while, leaning back in the chair, "I always wondered how you put up with them for so long. My family, I mean." I shrugged. "I guess I thought it'd get better. Figured if I just kept my head down, did the right thing, they'd see I wasn't out to screw anyone over." "And?" she asked. I let out a dry laugh. "And apparently that was wishful thinking." Amy's expression turned serious. "For what it's worth, I think you handled it better than most people would have." "Thanks," I said, meaning it. "But I'm done letting it eat at me. They can spin it however they want. I know the truth." She nodded, and we left it at that. I got back into my routine fast. Mornings at the office, afternoons on job sites. Weekends turned into a mix of catching up on paperwork and taking long drives out of town, places I hadn't bothered to see when I was too busy trying to keep everyone happy. There was a freedom in it, like I'd finally stopped carrying a weight I didn't even realize I'd been holding. Of course, the world doesn't stop spinning just because you're trying to rebuild your life. I started hearing whispers about Sarah, the way she was scrambling to find a new place to live, how she was trying to land a job at a boutique downtown but couldn't seem to hold on to it. Her parents were still in denial, still trying to play the part of the respectable couple, even as their business was slowly crumbling. It wasn't my concern anymore, and I made sure to keep it that way. But every now and then, someone would bring it up. A friend who still ran in the same circles as Sarah's family. A former neighbor who'd seen her moving boxes out of her parents' place. And each time, I'd just nod and say, "Hope she figures it out," because that's all there was left to say. One evening, about 3 months after the divorce, I ran into Jason, my old coworker who had first gotten me into freelancing. We hadn't seen each other in years, but he'd heard about what went down. We grabbed a couple of beers at a dive bar we used to haunt, and he asked me straight out, "So, you good?" I took a long pull from the bottle before answering. Yeah. Better than I've been in a long time. He gave me a knowing look. Man, you always had your shit together. Even back in the day when we were scraping by, you never looked rattled. I chuckled. Trust me, I was rattled plenty. Just didn't let it show. That's the difference, he said. Most guys would have caved. Especially with her family breathing down your neck. I shrugged. I don't see the point in giving in when you know it's wrong. If you're gonna stand for something, you'd better be ready to stand alone. He raised his bottle to that, and we left it there. I'd like to say everything got easier after that, but life doesn't really work like that. You don't just flip a switch and forget the years you spent fighting to be seen as enough. But I will say this, with every week that passed, I felt more like myself. I stopped second-guessing every decision, stopped worrying about whether I was good enough for people who never planned to see me that way. I focused on what I could control, my work, my health, the people who actually gave a damn about me. And little by little, the anger stopped feeling so sharp. The memories stopped stinging so much. I realized that holding on to all that would only weigh me down, and I wasn't going to let Sarah or her family have that kind of power over me anymore. One Friday afternoon, I was wrapping up some paperwork in the office when my phone buzzed. It was Amy. She sounded hesitant when I answered, like she wasn't sure if she should even be calling. Hey, Matt, she said. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Sarah's been trying to reach out to people you both know. She's been telling everyone you were controlling, that you wouldn't let her live her own life. I let out a long sigh, leaning back in my chair. Figures. I didn't want you to be blindsided, she said. I know you don't care what she says, but I thought you should know. Thanks, Amy. I appreciate it, I said. Anytime, she replied. And for what it's worth, nobody who knows you is buying it. I hung up and sat there for a minute, staring at the ceiling. The truth was, I didn't care what stories Sarah told people. I knew what had happened, and so did anyone who mattered. But it still stung a little, hearing how she was trying to twist it around to make herself the victim. Part of me wanted to call her out, shout it from the rooftops that she was the one who'd lied and cheated, but I stopped myself. That's not who I am. And I'd be damned if I let her drag me down to her level. So I got up, grabbed my jacket, and headed home. It was a couple of weeks later when Sarah showed up at my office out of nowhere. She looked different. Gone was the polished, confident woman I'd married. She looked tired, worn down. And she was holding a small box, some of the last things she'd left at the house before I packed them up and sent them to her parents. Matt, she said, her voice small. I just wanted to see you. To talk. I stood there, arms crossed. About what? She looked down at the box, then back up at me. About us. About everything that happened. I didn't move. There is no us anymore, Sarah. You made sure of that. Her eyes welled up. I know. And I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I was throwing away until it was gone. I let out a slow breath. Yeah. That's usually how it goes. She set the box down on my desk. These are yours. I didn't want to keep them. I nodded but didn't reach for it. Thanks. She wiped her eyes. Matt, do you ever think we could fix this? Maybe start over? I didn't answer right away. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the same woman who'd let her family treat me like an outsider for years. The same woman who'd let someone else take her attention while I was busting my ass to build a life for us. I saw it all, and I knew exactly what I had to say. No, Sarah, I said calmly. We can't. I'm not interested in fixing something that was never built on respect to begin with. She flinched like I'd slapped her. But I didn't soften it. I didn't owe her that. You had your chance, I said, my voice low. And you chose something else. So you'll have to live with that. She started to cry, but I didn't let it move me. I'd shed enough tears for us both already. I just turned and walked her to the door. Take care of yourself, Sarah, I said. And I meant it. But I wasn't going to be the one to pick up the pieces. She left without another word, and I watched her go. Then I closed the door, locked it, and sat down at my desk. My hands were steady. My breathing even. No more looking back. I'd survived the storm, and I wasn't about to let anyone drag me back into it.